begin the ceremony for the Founders Award, a gentleman here in the room has asked to come up and rebut the nomination. He wanted to do a counterpoint to the point. Being the democracy that we are, I figured, well, we better let him do it, or might be real problems down the road. So I'd like to invite Chad Kassem, please, up to the microphone. As you recall, during his Founders Award, Michael Fremer said that Chad's business was in Virginia, Kansas, and I'm not sure how well that went over with Chad, but here from Virginia, where are you from?
I'm from Louisiana.
Salina, Kansas. Salina, here he is, Chad Kassem.
Thank you, Bob. Everybody says I'm from Kansas, but I'm from Louisiana. I'm a Cajun. I happen to get stuck in Kansas, but it's all worked out. Bob asked me to roast Michael Fremer. I had nothing. When the LA Society gave me the award, they asked me, Chad, who would you like to present it to you? And it didn't take me a second to think. There was only one obvious person, and that was Michael. And Bob took care of him and got him here, and I really appreciate, Bob, you helping Michael get here, and Michael giving me the award. It was really funny to hear. He made a whole story about how this Cajun and from Louisiana got to Kansas, and it was pretty entertaining. He did the accent and the whole thing. I know Michael knows how I feel, but I like to say it in front of everybody how much I appreciate what he's done for our hobby of collecting vinyl. To me, there's not one person in the world that's done more for vinyl than Michael Fremer. When I first moved to Kansas in 1984, it was the year that CDs came out. And I got there, and I was just working as a cook, and I started collecting records and reading Fremer and a few other people's stuff just as a hobby. My opinion is a lot of people tried to kill off vinyl. They really wanted one format. And they did a pretty good job of it, and it got to where there wasn't many new albums being released. He's done everything he could. He used to battle, and with the CD Review magazine, people would try to debate with him, and he would be debating with engineers and really smart people that, well, they all go by specs, and they would argue, and he would stand his ground the whole time from then until now. I see a lot of people, I was vinyl the whole time. I said, yeah, you the first son of a gun I saw running when the CDs came out. So now everybody's coming back, and we welcome everybody, and we appreciate it, and we're real happy that, vinyl is coming back. But, Michael was there the whole time, and I just feel honored to be able to tell Michael how I feel in front of everybody, because without him, I don't know if we'd be all here talking about how great the vinyl comeback has been. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you, Chad. Now, Michael's sister, Susan Hans, has asked to rebut Chad.
Hi, I'm Susan Hans, and I'm very thrilled to be here, where you're all honoring my terrific brother, Michael. I'm here with my sister, Judy. And I just thought you might be interested in a little bit of his family history, so you would understand how he got to be where he is. You may not be surprised to hear that he comes from a family where both his parents loved music very much. They both loved big band music, the American songbook, and show tunes. Sometimes they did fight about music. Our mother came from Hungary when she was 13, and she fancied herself a cultured lady, and she preferred classical music and opera. So sometimes when our father, who preferred jazz and what was then called race music, played his music, she would playfully call him a peasant and tell him to go back to Bogopolya in Ukraine, where he came from. They also both loved to whistle and sing, and we would join in all the time. Our father also loved technology and gadgets. We had the second TV on the block, and the first Webcore reel-to-reel tape recorder. We also had a player piano with rolls cut by Fats Waller and others. And when it started to deteriorate, he had it electrified so we could still enjoy the music. Also, when Michael, who was very young, wanted to either build a radio or a television or an amplifier, he was given all the things he needed to make that happen. So although Mikey's life took some unusual turns before reaching this point, it's not surprising to hear that when I came home from a day in elementary school, I would often find him sitting on the floor with his own turntable when he was 3 and 4 years old and his own record collection. Truly. In fact, I think he learned to read by reading the ABCs on record labels. I am thrilled now to present my brother with the award from my sister and myself for this, and I will describe it to you. It's a Frisbee, in case he needs reminding to be playful and a kid again, which I don't think he does. And it says, it's black with grooves, and it says, "I collect records, I am obsessed with them." And we think this is another wonderful award for him. So thank you for having us.
No one else has asked to rebut the award. But as part of the process for the Founders Award, I always ask the person, once I offer it to them, to name the person they would like most to present them to us. Michael didn't even hesitate a quarter of a second in naming this person. This extraordinary gentleman will now introduce our Founders Award winner, highlighting for the record Michael Fremer's outstanding contributions to reporting and advocating the best in high-end listening. He is the renowned, undisputed, brilliant manager and editor-in-chief of Stereophile Magazine, and has been for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, J.A. is in the room, John Atkinson.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, this coming May, I will have been editor of Stereophile for exactly 33 years. Maybe Michael could tell us what the significance of that number is. This is kind of a rebuttal to Susan, to Chad, to Michael, because this is the 25th anniversary of the Society's founding, 93. I want to go back a decade to 1982, because that was a year where one significant development happened for the audio industry, which was the invention of the compact disc. And that, whatever it sounded like, it gave a jolt of life into the audio industry. The second thing that happened that year was, at the age of just 34, I became the editor of Hi-Fi News magazine in England, which set my path forward. The third event that happened that year, I didn't think anything of at the time, but it turned out to be really the most significant of all. I went to see a movie called Tron. And if you look up on IMDb, the sound design supervisor for that movie was none other than Michael Fremer, something he has reminded me of almost every time we have met. And so I didn't know that at the time, but obviously that was a significant happening. Michael, at that time, was living in Los Angeles, of course, and was writing record reviews for a magazine, and he was headhunted by Harry Pearson, editor and founder of The Absolute Sound. In 1986, Harry hired Michael to be the pop music editor. Well, pop music, I guess that's the kind of music those young people listen to, right, Michael?
Yeah.
And Michael then first came to my attention. I'd just moved over from England, I'd taken over Stereophile. Michael wrote a scathing criticism of Stereophile and me. And I read it, and I thought, this is really good writing. Who is this man? Of course, I was later to find out that not only was he a sound supervisor on Tron and Animal Olympics, right? And he also had been a stand-up comedian, and he'd got an LP out with the title I Can Take a Joke, which was kind of puzzled me because Michael can't take a joke. So I'm standing a little way away from him, so that's all right. So I read this critique, and I thought, wow, this guy can write, he has something to say, he knows how to say it. Why is he writing for another magazine? So I sort of put his name away in my file of people to hunt down and capture when I could. Next thing that happened, it was 1988, and Harry Pearson had the first of his parties at his home in Seacliff, where he was honoring people, one of whom was J. Gordon Holt, Stereophile's founder. So I went with Gordon to the party, and there was Michael and his new wife, Sharon. They were wearing matching tuxes. They looked fantastic. But that was not the point. They had got married and had delayed their honeymoon so they could go to Harry's party. And I thought, not only can this guy write, not only does he have things he wants to say, he will put off his honeymoon to honor his editor. And as an editor, I like that. So I followed his writings from afar. He wrote about pop music, the music that those young people like. And 95, he contacted me and said, I'm leaving The Absolute Sound. You know, have you got anything for me? And I thought, yes, I have. And I wanted him to join us full time as our music editor to not just do pop music, but classical music and jazz. And he said, well, I have my own thing to do. He was going to launch a magazine called The Tracking Angle. But, okay, but as a kind of consolation prize, would you write a column for us? And he said yes. And it was going to be Analog Corner, and he was going to write about analog. Well, I thought, you know, LPs, yes, some people are still playing them, but, you know, we'll give Michael the space to write about analog and vinyl and LPs, and pretty soon I'm sure he'll expand into the wonderful world of digital. And you know what? He never did. So his first column appeared in July 1995. He's now up to what, number 280? And he's still writing about LPs, and he's still talking about his passion for the music and just how much it means to him. Well, Tracking Angle was a good magazine, but it never had a high circulation. And we were talking back in, oh gosh, 10 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Is there something we can do together? So we bought the Tracking Angle. We hired Michael as a full-time editor, to do his own website, analogplanet.com, which I think is the leading website on anything to do with vinyl and LPs. And if you look at the comments section for the articles he writes and posts, he really can't take a joke. He gets angry with the readers, but fortunately they don't take it amiss, and they still love him. So that was May 2012, and since then he's still writing Analog Corner for Stereophile. He's doing this great website for us. And he's truly a star with his commitment and his vision. He almost single-handedly kept the analog flame alive over the 20 years it took for the CD to turn from the primary music medium to an obsolete commodity, which it now is. So I think Michael is truly deserving of the Founders Award, and it's my pleasure to be here to present it to him. Thank you.
Why don't you read from the award?
Okay, so here we are, wrapped up in a tasteful Victoria's Secret bag, it looks like. Oops. Oh, don't let me drop it.
Wow.
Okay, talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so it looks like a Shibata stylus.
Yes.
Okay, the Los Angeles and Orange County Audio Society is presenting the Founders Award to Los Angeles and Orange County Audio Society on its 25th anniversary honors to Michael Fremer, world-renowned high-end audio reviewer, global analog LP expert, music reviewer, editor, radio television producer, audio spokesperson, music producer, and performer, and the date is December the 2nd, 2018. So, Michael, for you.
Thank you so much. That was sweet. Way too nice. Thank you. More. Wow. You know, this is really amazing because every year I get up here and I roast somebody, and this is a totally different experience than that. And every year when I get up here, I actually feel more pressure when I have to roast somebody because you have to be funny, I have to entertain you, and I have to be somewhat offensive, which is easy for me, but not too offensive, not too offensive. And generally I deliver the goods, like when I said that Chad Kassem's story was that he floated down the Mississippi like Moses in a bed of clarinet reeds. That was funny. And we had John Grado here last year, and I confused him with his Uncle Joe and gave him credit for all of Joe's creations, which was, fun. Some people thought I actually didn't know that it wasn't really what John Grado had done, but I knew that. So I actually find it easier to roast other people than it is to stand in front of you. And to accept this graciously is not so easy for me, especially since so many of my heroes are here tonight and have gotten this award. And on some level, I think they've done more for this business than I have. And I just sit in my basement and I write. And so I don't see it being the same as someone who builds something and sells it and we listen on it. So it's difficult for me to find the right words, but I'll do my best. First of all, I want to thank someone without whom I never would have gotten from where I was, wherever that was, to where I am today, wherever that is. And of course, that person really is me, because really, from the bottom of my heart, wherever that is, I have to thank me. Because let's face it, without me, where would I be? I would be nowhere. Without me, over the past 30 years of doing this, I wouldn't have been able to write a word. Thanks to generous help from me, I've been able to write 280 columns for Stereophile, for Analog Corner. And who else would have been willing to sit there month after month extolling the virtues of vinyl records, which, to finally tell you the truth, I really don't like that much. They're dirty, they're noisy, and face it, they just don't sound that good. But it's been a living, and someone had to do it, so why not me? So I want to thank me for all my sacrifices. Okay, enough of that, really. So I really do have many people to thank, starting with my wife Sharon over here, who, let me tell you, she's put up with me for more than 30 years, and believe me, that could not have been easy. True, she will not argue with that. She would have much rather had I been a dog. And I do tell people I prefer at home to have been a dog, because if I'd been treated like a dog at home, it would be the greatest, because the dogs get the best treatment. So I'll take second best, though. It's pretty good. So I love you, Sharon, and thank you so much for putting up with my craziness all these years. I really would not be standing here without your support for all these years. That is absolutely the truth. So thank you. It's funny, when I was a little boy about 3 years ago, and I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said, and my sisters may remember this, I said there were two things I wanted to be. Both of my sisters, by the way, are much younger than me. I want to make sure you understand that. Not really, but I had to say that. When I was a little boy, my parents said, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be either a fire engine or a dog. You remember that? That's right. That's the truth. And since I've yet to achieve either, of my childhood aspirations. I guess that proves what Sharon likes to say about me, which is that I've still not grown up. So I wish I would grow up, because then I could become a dog and I'd be better treated in my house. So there's still hope. Anyway, I have to thank for my fanatical love of vinyl, both of my parents, especially my father, who once broke over my head when I was a sophomore in college, not the Rolling Stones Out of My Head, but a copy of Volume 1 of the Modern Jazz Quartet live in Europe. That's absolutely true. And my mother, who also tried to implant in me a love of vinyl in a much less hard way. And her voice is at the beginning of all of my YouTube channel videos, and she used to say to me, "Don't sneak into your room like that. I know what you got behind your back. Records. More new records. Your father works very hard for his money, and you waste it all on records. No, don't go out and play football and break a leg like a normal kid. Just sit around listening to that sick cow music. Why don't you go to the ASPCA? You'll hear the same noise, and it's free. You probably never even play half that crap you buy. Oh, they see you coming down the block. They should stop selling you those records because you're addicted. Better you should smoke pot than buy all those records. And would you please stop playing with matches?" Anyway, that's what she used to tell me. So, I just want to say rebellion needn't end when the mandatory Social Security checks begin arriving. So I also have to thank my sisters, Judy and Susan, for their unwavering support over the years, and especially for their sanitized story of our family. It was a nice story, but like most stories, it's really not so true. For example, when I was a little boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, which no one else in the family had, and I was feeling estranged and out of place, they would sit me down and say, "You are adopted, ha 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 ha." You remember that? They don't remember that, but they did. It's true. So a few years later, my hair turned dark and my eyes lost their iridescent blue sparkle. They stopped the adoption taunt and graciously welcomed me into the family with, "You're gonna be bald, just like your Uncle Albert, ha 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 ha." You don't remember that, do you? They don't remember, but this is all true. Anyway, enough evening of the score. So they've both been very supportive, seriously, but only lately. So enough of that. Now for some serious business, seriously. I do have to thank the first person that gave me a job in this business, Harry Pearson, back in 1986, writing for the Absolute Sound, because that's how I got started in all of this. And interestingly, what I did was send him articles I had written for a music magazine in Los Angeles, all of which fed back to him everything I learned from him. So of course he liked what I wrote, so it was not too hard to get the job. But especially, I have to thank John Atkinson, because John took a big chance with me because of what I had written about Stereophile and some other things. I mean, Stereophile had a party at CES every year, and one year, everybody in the industry was invited. I was barred from entering. Serious, this is serious. Ken Nelson stood there at the door and said, "No, you're not getting in." And, actually, I didn't blame him for not letting me in, because I was pretty lousy at that point. I was called the attack dog, another dog reference, at the Absolute Sound fighting Stereophile. I was going to tell the story of how I did quit the Absolute Sound, because it's really a great story. It's a hilarious story. But we did it yesterday, and Ben Williams videoed it, so it'll be on wherever it's going to be, and I think you'll really find the story funny. And it's really not good for a dinner conversation. And I also have to thank Bob Levy, because Bob, over the years, has been incredibly supportive of me and kind to me and inviting me here. And I really do appreciate all of your help, Bob, not to mention what he's done for this organization over the years, which is incredible. So that's all I have to say. I want to thank all of you for this award, and it's just been so much fun to be here every year and roast people, and I hope next year I can get back to that and stop this nonsense, because I don't want to stand here and cry in front of you. So thank you all very much for this award.
Time to cry.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is not mine? Someone else's copy? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Albert Lord, representing the Los Angeles City Council, has asked for the floor.
My name is Albert Lord. I'm a deputy for the Los Angeles City Council President, Herb Blessing. When it came notice that the Los Angeles Orange County Audio Society, it came to our office. So on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, I wonder if you might stand with me. It's my joy and honor to be able to represent the City of Los Angeles when it comes to cultural and art events. So in front of me, the City of Los Angeles, State of California provides congratulations to Michael Fremer in recognition of receiving the Los Angeles and Orange County Audio Society's highest honor, the annual Founders Award. The Society's Board of Directors awards the Founders Award annually to those professionals in the high end who continue to advance fine musical reproduction in the home and distinguish themselves as the best in their profession. Congratulations, and it's signed the Los Angeles City Council President, Herb Blessing. Congratulations.
This is the coolest thing. Thank you so much. Wow.